if I could be a fly on the wall in the White House telling you who's running it all.
All right, what is going on, guys? It is Adam, a.k.a. Marf, and this is Marfoogle News. Today, we have a ton to go over, so we're going to get to that now. In fact, we are actually going to be covering Britain's terror threat, just to go over some of the craziest things right now going on. Terror threat highest since 9/11, warns of real risk of attack, record levels of chatter. That's kind of freaky, considering we just talked about Leave the World Behind, the Kevin Bacon character talking about all of this, speaking specifically of chatter. Of course, we have FBI hunting for Iranian spy who allegedly plotted to take somebody out. We'll talk about who they were planning on taking out in just a minute. Of course, we're going to be talking about the Supreme Court decided if T-Man can stay on the ballot. It looks like it was unanimous, and we'll tell you the result. Germany and Russia spar over a leaked audio on missiles for Ukraine. Apparently, Germany and everybody else is getting involved here, so that is literally what people are not wanting. Russia's lists German bridges Russia could hit in return for the Crimean Bridge. Of course, we have 20,000 soldiers from 13 countries, NATO's huge drill. We, of course, have NATO troops cross Poland's river in major exercise, and we have Russia is holding back its best tanks. We have South Korea, U.S. troops kick off annual drills. We, of course, have China proves birds aren't real, new military drone. This is actually really terrifying. They've done something that scientists and inventors have been trying to do for a long time. They just did another first. And then, of course, Red Sea's underwater data cables cut as Houthi attacks continue. Now, we'll remind you, we actually covered this before. Now there's a new update on this, and now people are catching on. They knocked out huge chunks of the internet, and this could be our future if we're not careful. Tumble-mageddon buries homes, cars across West. If you did not see this on my Twitter, it is absolutely nuts. We'll show you pictures you will be absolutely blown away by. And then, of course, electric cars are worse for the environment, finds shock report. Maybe they're just going after Elon. We'll see. And much, much more. We'll be right back right after this. Nothing in the show should be considered legal, medical, or financial advice. The views of the callers can differ considerably and do not necessarily reflect my opinion, Dex's opinion, or anyone else who works with the show. You should always do your own research and consult with professionals. The internet is full of fake news, so please take everything with a grain of salt. If you have not already, it helps us out if you end up going through any of our affiliates, and it helps you out if you end up protecting yourself against cybercrime. NordVPN is one of the best and one of the easiest to use. If you do not have a virtual private network, it protects your IP address, which is your online identity, which actually connects to your real address and everything else. It also connects to you. If you know anything about how they are data logging and basically getting your profiles down, you can prevent that by having a VPN. Nord is, again, one of the easiest. Download it. It's like an on switch and off switch. All you have to do. Go to marfooglenews.com/VPN. Not only will you get a giant discount on this, but you will also be helping us. I appreciate your support, and I appreciate everyone that goes through any of our affiliates. Can't say thank you enough.
White House telling you who's running it all, who's making this Rome and no watching it fall. I tell you what, the press ain't making those calls. Only if I could be a fly on the wall with the White House telling you who's running it all.
Britain's terror threat is the highest since 2001 as insider warns of real risk of attack with record levels of chatter. This is really eerie. This came out today, but just yesterday I was watching a chunk of Leave the World Behind again, because there's actually kind of another little predictive alarming part in that. Is a part of that movie shows a tiny scene of the Earth, and for some reason it zooms out on the moon with the Earth's flag on the moon, and it shows the Earth in an eclipse. And I was thinking, gosh, with all the chatter around April and May, especially with military saying that they're being denied their leave, specifically those periods and on. And then, of course, the eclipse on April 8th, I'm thinking, gosh, this is really kind of freaky. But as I'm watching that, the whole Kevin Bacon part of that, that part is so freaky because it's like they took that character and based it off of our community. I won't say us because a lot of us have said the exact same thing as far as the level of chatter, reading the back page news. You guys have heard me say that for 5 years, and this movie comes out. As far as you know, we don't just look at the front page. It's like those people took it straight out of our shows, right? And when you heard that, I bet most people said, "Oh, that sounds like our community," right? But as far as talking about the chatter around this, right? There's a lot of threats, and they could all be empty threats. But the pile and the number of them, it's kind of like playing the lotto. It's like the more you play, the more chances you have of winning. And unfortunately, this is not a game we want to win. This is not something we want to find out about. As far as all of the different ways that this could go bad, yes, you could be a pessimist and be a downer and an Eeyore about it, or you could be positive and say, hey, we can get through this. And that's what we're trying to do here is have people mentally and spiritually prepared for this. So when it does happen, they're not sideswiped in the face with it. Let's bring in my co-host/internet brother, Dex James. What is going on and how are you doing today?
Well, hello, Adam, and hello, Foogle fam. I'm doing just fine.
A reminder, you can go over to marfooglenews.com/friends and find all of our wonderful mods like Ilea, Jammer, Wages, does all of the solar events happening right now, which there's a ton. If you have not been following all of the crazy things going on with our sun, go check out Wages World for sure. And then, of course, Trinity, all sorts of great edited deep dive videos, and many, many more, including Rip Curl, who does preparedness over in Oregon. So go check them out. They all have a great channel /links/art/books on Amazon like Chance Paladin. As far as the Britain's terror threat, right? Everybody's going to have their own thoughts on this. Everybody's going to say, everybody's in this kind of state where we've been constantly lied to for years, and now people are just getting tired of being told something bad is going to happen if it's not. Most of you are on the same page as me. I do believe that something is going to happen, and unfortunately, I think that many people are not prepared for it because of this mindset. Britain's terror threat is now at the highest since 2001, Security Insider has warned. An expert has warned that there is a real risk of a coordinated action of a lone outsider carrying out an isolated attack on these shores. Now, you know what's even crazier? This is something that is the opposite of what we are being told here in the United States. Sheriff Rick Jones got out in front of people and said, hey, this isn't, they just told us that the risk isn't just in D.C. or in Chicago or in New York. It is across the country. He said that they're warning of nationwide attacks, things that would happen in every state at the local and national level. So this is quite the opposite. They're saying warning of like a lone wolf type of thing. What do you want to bet something like this is going to happen? How bad could a lone wolf thing be? Well, depending on what they bring into a city, it could be pretty bad. It could be the first instance, we could see down the road the first instance of a tactical being brought in or a dirty boom boom. Dex, do you want to go over what the rest of this is and why the people are paying attention now?
Well, we've had these warnings before, and I don't think we should necessarily set it aside just because it's coming from officials and because they're sounding very scary with their, how they're trying to correlate it to past history and give it at least some sort of level of threat level that we would understand or take seriously. The other thing to keep in mind is it's not just that this is happening in Britain. This is, if they're saying it applies to everywhere, it applies here. And when you think about the level of event that happened during that time period back in 2001, and you compare where we are today in the Middle East, especially with who we're supporting and whether it's right or wrong over there, and the amount of people that are in the opposite direction of that, and the amount of opportunity for them to want to do harm to not only Israel but also us, it's makes perfect sense to think that there is an opportunity for an event like this to happen. Now, mind you, even those that believe that something can be orchestrated and everything is just put together as a stage show, well, that is also a very relevant possibility. And they have told us time and time again that we're going to have something from within. And that within they like to label as people on one side of the fence, not the other side of the fence, so to speak, politically. We've seen that over and over again coming out of our organizations. But nonetheless, this is all the more reason to think about what are you going to do to be prepared, as well as how are you changing your mindset when you're out in public, when you're out in crowded spaces, when you're out in areas that an event like this could go down and you could be part of. Are you making sure you're prepared for that?
And one of the quotes is, the level of extreme chatter is off the scale. This is something they've seen growing and growing. That was one MP with knowledge of the latest briefings, and says they added, it's like when the two towers came down in 2001. There was a big spike of hate. What's lining up with this too, and this could be part of Ganda, is you see a ton of videos right now, as of yesterday, of people taking down American flags, a specific kind of people, one that they're talking about in this article. In fact, I will retweet that. I usually don't just retweet that without a reason, but as far as the stuff that's happening in the videos that are going out, whether they're Ganda or orchestrated, whatever, it's out there, right? So with this, the crazy part is in 2001, the public didn't know any of this before it happened. And after it happened, they said, oh yeah, we had all these warnings and all of these things that popped up. And of course, it was a big deal because that was a huge deal that didn't end for years. People still don't have the right answers. There are families that are still pissed off about this. The entire panel that they put together, the commission that they put together, there are so many people that are just absolutely still enraged by it. There are people that have been obsessed with that event since that event, that had family members and relatives that passed, that just will never let that go. And most of us agree that it's for good reason, right? The answers they got were not the answers they wanted. The answers they got, they did not believe that they were the correct ones. With this, it's like if we're seeing the same exact thing at a time like this, with all of these other things going on, I think it's kind of crazy to think that, nothing is going to happen. At this point, like I said, playing the lotto, you have so many of these things. It's like we're playing roulette, and it's no longer just Russian roulette. It's world roulette. We don't know what part of the world things are going to go down with, but we're pretty sure one of these things is going to snap. It's like you have all of these fires lit at the same time. Speaking of the opposite of fire, I don't know if any of you in Seattle are looking outside right now, but what California has seen, this blizzard, the snow over on the West Coast, it is happening here now. It is absolutely crazy. It went from tiny pea-size hail to dime-size hail, and now I think we've got already a few inches of snow. So, gosh, more reasons why people in states that don't really have this craziness all the time, you should be prepared. You should have this kind of stuff hanging around. I hope that looking outside gets your butt in gear to get prepared. Power goes out here all the time because we're not set up for snow. So hopefully all of you guys got your generators charging. If not, you've got your gas backed up and everything. Hopefully we don't get it as bad as they have it down in California. I don't think we will. But what do you guys think about this? If you have info, let us know. You can email me at adam@marfooglenews.com. You can, of course, CC dex@marfooglenews.com, or you can, of course, leave a phone message at 224400 MARF or 2244006273. All right. And Ray the Way, stream is buffering with real-time streaming. When I rewind it, it doesn't buffer. Thank you, Ray the Way. It seems like on our end it's pretty good, and most people are not having that. So we'll see. We'll see if that gets any better for you. Make sure to reset if you're, depending on what app you're on. And then have you all heard about the red heifers that are about to be given up this year? Given to God, to not use that crazy word. Israel is going to attempt it at least. Sweating no, I haven't, and I can't say that I know if that. I haven't confirmed that myself, but that's I know about the red heifer that was born. Of course, I had a lengthy conversation about that with my friend Jacob when that happened. But yeah, no, I have not seen that yet, and I will check it out and probably let you know what I think tomorrow. Lori Marafino, thank you so much for subscribing. And Carol, thank you, says love to all. Vic, thank you. Hello from Strawberry Central, Plant City, Florida. Thank you for all you do. My wife, Ragda, and I love you all. Please stay positive. We are prepared. And most of all, Christ is King. Walk by faith, not by sight. Paul Yesley, thank you. And by the way, thank you guys. And thank you, KT Cleans a lot. You guys are awesome. I appreciate you. And again, it's getting crazy out here. And then FBI hunting for the spy from Iran allegedly plotted to take out Pompeo and other U.S. officials. When I first saw this guy, I thought, man, looks like just a regular average Joe. Less than that. Somebody who would like reuse cups at Walmart or at Costco. Dex, the FBI is hunting for this guy, but apparently he's a bad actor.
Yeah, so Majid Dajani Faharini, he speaks multiple languages. He is from, I think he speaks Farsi, French, Spanish, and English. He frequently travels, obviously, between Iran and Venezuela. And according to the agencies in the Miami field office, they're trying to find him here or while he's traveling. He's 41 years old, obviously a suspect of the Ministry of Intelligence. But this is one of the kickers. He says not only in the headline we told you, but he's been recruiting individuals for operations in the U.S., including going after that former government official. But just think about the first part of that sentence. Individuals for operations in the U.S. So this guy is trying to put together, according to our feds, put together operations with multiple people he's recruiting here in the U.S. So they're looking for him. Of course, the headline is talking about Pompeo and in revenge for Major General Qasem Soleimani, which we've talked about that ad nauseum as it happened all through the years. It's been talked about enough. We know what it is. But I'm more concerned about the fact that not only is that they're saying this individual is recruiting for operations, not just this thing, but other things too. That's the big deal.
Somebody who was that? Oh, that was bad. Says he needs a fanny pack. He has the Middle Eastern posture of Alan from The Hangover. Somebody else said Iranian dad. Iranian dad bod. Well, I guess we can poke fun at something that really is quite alarming. And others said, Creamy Goodness says this is a trick, right? This is the 3-letter agency trick. We don't know what it is. And at this point, I think most of us are kind of expecting some hooduggery to happen. And whether it is scripted or whether it is organic, most of us are kind of looking at like what happens if that happens. I don't think most people think that just absolutely nothing will happen, right? I think the majority of people just believe it's not going to happen to me. I mean, we've seen this a million times. I've pointed it out every time you see any kind of bad event happen in any neighborhood. They go, I can't believe it happened here in our neighborhood. Our neighborhood's so quiet. Or our neighborhood, I can't believe that happened here. If you look back at your life, you've probably been through some crazy stuff. I shouldn't say probably. You have been through crazy stuff. I don't think there's a single person here, unless you live in a bubble, that have been close to either, perishing, had a close call with death, or you have seen some crazy things, right? So when you look at that, it's kind of like Murphy's Law with this kind of thing. It's like there are so many angles from so many places in the world where we are the number one enemy. It's kind of like if you're a like crazy household name celebrity, it's like those people at the very, very top that have security, all this. It's like the sheer numbers of people that they could have, all these people love them, but the sheer numbers of people that hate them, they're bound to have something happen. they're bound to try to be accosted or have stalkers or have this or that, right? That's why they have security at that kind of level, right? It's just the sheer numbers. There's no person that has notoriety in the entire planet that doesn't have millions of people hate them. And there's no person like that that just goes their whole life without something bad being attempted on them. Same with the U.S. The whole world is looking at the U.S. And if you look around, whether they're believing the Ganda or they're believing the truth, not a lot of people are really loving us right now outside of NATO. So very freaky. And then D.C. Supreme Court unanimously overturns the Colorado ruling, throwing T-Man, our former president, off the ballot. It wasn't just a few, Dex. It was all. It was unanimous, right? So this was just kind of
exactly.
That's kind of telling, isn't it?
It is. I don't know that they're necessarily agreeing or disagreeing with the language. Now, mind you, if you guys want to know some of the technicals, they were trying to use a portion of the Constitution, Section 3, that was originally written based on trying to prevent people who were in the Confederacy from being in Congress or in other elected positions. So it was actually a specific thing done at a specific time, and they were trying to stretch into that. To make this argument based on the language that was in it. They came back and said, look, this is, disenfranchising anybody that's trying to vote is a big significant thing, and we can't take lightly. And in this case, this is Congress's decision. It's not a state's decision. So they kicked it out and said, no, states, you can't use that. You can't say that. So technically what they're saying is if Congress wants to pass a law, because that's how it works, Congress, writes a bill. And then the Senate approves it and the president signs it in. So if Congress really wants to write a law saying this can be the case, then so be it. But until they do, you can't do this. Colorado, which also means the other states like Illinois and everyone else that's trying to pile in on this, pretty much are going to have to, pack up and go home. They're not going to be able to use this argument.
Yeah. And so couple can't be guilty without a conviction, says J Pass. For once, our Supreme Court did a good thing. Somebody says, even if the Supreme Court knows T-Man is our only hope, pissed off puppy, mad, won't get past the Senate. By the way, and I hope, and I really do hope, how we built this community, that you guys all understand if there's people that love or hate that man, that you guys can get past that and find the 50,000 things you probably have in common. That's why we try to stay away from this kind of stuff, because it's just it just causes so many unpassable barriers, and that's why our country is in trouble. There's issues that people will never see eye to eye on, especially if you're on one side or the other of certain things. They're impassable barriers. They're things that people will not, their principle will not let them ever be okay with it. But there is a route around trying to find peace, at least in a place like this where we can all talk, because we should be conversating. Right now, not a lot of people are. Either it's one way street, both ways. Now, before we move on, reminder: EMP Shield is a product that we've had for years. If you're new here, probably you've been here for a long time, so you already know why we suggest an EMP Shield. It will protect you against solar, and it will protect you against EMP strikes. This not only protects your cars, trucks, motorcycles, boats, but it can also protect your generators, your solar generator, in the case of the Flex 1500, if you have one of those, and it can protect your gas generators. It's super easy to put in. One thing that they wanted to continue to let you guys know, there is usually these things ship out like the next day. There is a few days of a delay, might be a week. Nothing compared to like if you were trying to order lithium products or something like that, like batteries. But with this, get your order in now, and they'll get it out super quick. As far as compared to other things, it is super quick, but it's not next day quick. But they, if they are running out of the regular one, the EMP Shield Micro is all the same protection. It grounds the signal in less than 500 trillionths of a second before it can fry your car, your generator, your house. And that does all the same. It's a few dollars more, but they will usually have that in stock if they don't have the original or vice versa. So check on both. And again, they also have in stock the EMP Shield 4-year Flex 1500. So if you already have that, you did the long wait for the generator, then definitely get it protected, because it would just be a smart move to have that, especially if you've waited for that and you finally got it. Go to marfooglenews.com/EMP. Make sure to use the code MARF, because you'll save $50 off. Not only you're getting a discount, you're protecting yourself, and you're helping us. We are completely on our own. We're independent. So thank you guys. Mainly, though, please share us out with any friend or family member you think would love us. If you're heading to a reunion this weekend, or you're heading to a birthday party or something, and you see old friends, talk about our channel. Let us get out there if you can. We really appreciate it. Cannot tell you enough. We know there's so many people here. They don't get here through recommendations. They get here through referrals through you guys. So thank you. Germany and Russia spar over a leaked audio on missiles for Ukraine. Berlin promises to investigate. So we actually talked about, there's been a lot of leaks lately. Germany, of course, leaked their intel that Russia is definitely going to attack. What's freaky about this is the admissions of NATO troops are in Ukraine helping UKR do the deed, right? This is a big deal. Last year, people would have been up in arms. People would have been pulling their hair out. People would have been flipping. Now, we're just so desensitized and so done with this thing that everybody's like, I guess so. Is it going to get to a point where if they say we're going to put boots on the ground, just straight up saying, hey, we're sending in NATO into Ukraine to fight Russia? Is there going to be a point where people are just going to assume that and say, well, yeah, I thought so? It seems like that's where they're headed. Dex, do you want to go over this? It's not loading for me. I'll try reloading.
Yeah, scroll down. I think it's just a picture there. Or maybe it's not. I don't know. But anyway, yes. What has happened? So as we talked about last week, there was this whole thread about whether or not they were going to send the Taurus missile in. The audio leak is from a German Air Force, the head of the Germany's Air Force, Indigo Gerhards, and he's heard discussing deployment scenarios for the Taurus missile in Ukraine before a meeting with the defense minister, Boris Pistorius. And the officers then state that early delivery and rapid deployment of the missile would only be possible with the participation of the German soldiers. The officers said the training in Ukraine soldiers to deploy the Taurus on their own would be possible, but it would take many months for them to actually get there. So this whole notion of that, as well as this idea that they were possibly talking about targeting the Crimean Bridge, is part of this leak. So this leak is coming out, and now what Germany is sparring back to Russia over is saying, hey, you're the ones responsible for the leak. You're putting it out there, and you're putting it out there to divide NATO. You're not, it's never mind the conversation we had. They didn't say the leak was false, but they didn't say it was true either. They just said the reason they're doing it is to try to divide NATO up. Because we saw as soon as it happened, Germany was sort of pointing the finger at UK, saying, well, the UK's got people in there. And then that caused another kerfuffle. So anyway, a lot of confusion. So that's what's going on. It's kind of a big deal. It's a little rub around right now with what's happening between the words and the mincing and the finger pointing. But it could easily escalate to something greater as Germany and Russia are kind of going at it over this alleged phone call.
Yeah, I mean, if people don't see where this is going, I don't know what to say. Somebody said it's kind of like, Sean C. said, a slow drip. Like, just they're kind of letting us in on it just a little bit by a little bit by a little bit. Yeah, and then somebody else said completely desensitized to it, and nobody would even notice at this point. Old combat vet. Matthew chapter 12:35, a good man out of the good treasure of the hearth bringeth forth good things, and an evil man out of the evil treasure bringeth forth evil things. Old combat vet, thank you for your support. Nigel's view on things, much love, peace, Adam, Dex to one and all. Let's see here. Old combat vet, we know disinformation program is complete when everything the American public believes is false. William J. Casey, CIA director, 1981. That's a really crazy quote. We'll know when our disinfo program is complete, when everything the American people believes is false. William J. Casey, CI director, 1981. That's a crazy quote. One thing, I don't know how you could read that, but like now nobody believes anything. So even if it is true, they don't believe it. So that's kind of crazy. M. St. G says, Marf members gifting memberships rock. Hey, thank you to all of those doing that. And then Paul Barbacano, take care of each other and yourself. Of course, thank you, Paul. And thanks for making it again. Old Combat says, if we are flying through space, why are the stars in the same place they were 5,000 years ago? I'll let you guys debate that in the chat. I won't get into that one because we'll go down a one-way road that have the same stars above it for 5,000 years. Kim Curisco in 9362, Thomas Murphy 8809, KT Cleans a lot, thank you. My question is, how did we land on the moon with a birthday card computer chip? That's what I don't get. And how did we not go back after we had advanced technology? That's what I didn't understand. Either they've been up there or something fishy was going on. All right, and then we have Russia. Gandis lists German bridges Russia could hit in return for the Crimean Bridge. And this is coming from one of their mouthpieces, but essentially they're talking about responding for the Crimean Bridge. Propagandist Dmitry Kiselyov, speaking on Vesti in the Daily, his weekly TV news show, has named 4 bridges in Germany that Russia could destroy in response to a strike on the Kerch Bridge in occupied Crimea. So sophisticated as the interlocutors may be, they do not have images of bridges in Germany in their heads. In this relatively small country, there are no bridges as long as the Crimean Bridge, but there are still plenty to see through the missile site. It will be a pity, but what can we do? They don't care about our Crimean Bridge. He went on to list 4 German bridges that Russia could strike in retaliation. The Fehmarn Sound, Rügen bridges in Germany's north, which connect the mainland islands of Fehmarn and Rügen. The Hohenzollern railway bridge in Cologne, or Cologne, I believe, or Cologne. And the Magdeburg water bridge, which connects 2 canals across the Elbe River. It says Kiselyov claimed it was possible to attack 4 bridges at once, as there are no bridges in Germany of equal length. We'll have to consider other bridges in Germany to get the appropriate damage in terms of linear meters. So he's actually comparing it like this was a super long bridge. They're basically, to get the length of damage, like eye for an eye, tooth for a tooth, they would have to get 4 of their bridges. Like, I wonder if the guy like sat there on Google Earth or Earth and was like, oh, we got to measure this out. Either way, whatever he says has to be approved by the Kremlin. He couldn't say this. I mean, I guess he could saying, oh, well, they won't have a problem with me saying this, because they never have a problem with them saying stuff like that. But it makes you think. But will we see a retaliatory strike? That's a NATO country. Probably not. But who knows? Look at where we're at right now. Dex, do you think they would be crazy enough to do that right now at this point?
If it, if they get hit, it might be. It depends on what hits it. They just closed the bridge last night, temporarily blocking it because of all the hubbub about possibly being targeted. And then there was a report coming out saying there was a lot of drones being launched from UKR into that area towards the bridge. So they thought maybe they were being attacked. Now it's since been reopened. But it's obviously something that's, it's a big deal. It is a major connecting point. And when you take it out, then, you do not have access from Russia to Crimea.
Yeah, I honestly don't know. And then Quintra says, why do a lot of YouTubers hate all of us in DC? Not you, Adam, Dex, and the community here are nice. Wages World is nice too. His community too. I don't know. Are you like, if you're saying like, if you are an actual politician, I know there's a few people that watch that are politicians, and they're extremely nice people. If you are a politician, I don't know. Um, I'm trying to think, like, my mind goes to a couple communities, but I don't, I wouldn't put them on blast like that. As far as like the place, like the city, DC, yeah, I don't know. I don't even know if I've heard about that. I know of plenty of people that don't like politicians, or people in DC. Yeah, I don't. Are you saying like don't like people that are from Washington DC? I don't know. I know there's plenty of people that don't like Seattleites. Seattle is just, it's a whole other bag. Like, Seattle's just nuts. Most of those clips that are all over Twitter, they're usually taken on a street corner in Seattle. So just to give you an idea of how crazy we are in the culture conflict. But 20,000 soldiers from 13. Well, and thank you for the compliment, Quintris. Appreciate that. I guess treat people how you want to be treated and hope for the best. It's not saying that we're perfect. 20,000 soldiers from 13 countries inside NATO's huge drill on Putin's doorstep. So as far as the drill too, one thing I saw that was surprising, a lot of folks from Europe are saying that they don't hear much at all about the drills going on inside their own countries. Specifically, I saw comments from like Poland saying, "Oh, I haven't heard of anything about any of this stuff," or people saying that are from there, supposedly, and you don't know if they're saying that if they're part of a digital army in some country, a red country, but a lot of folks are saying like they don't hear about this in their news and on their media. That wouldn't surprise me. One thing I will point out is here in the U.S., when we have these crazy nighttime drills, the only time they get coverage is if they, after a lot of people get it on videotape and put it on Twitter and all of that, most of them go completely under the radar, literally in some cases, like the helicopter drills, dropping people off on the rooftops. That one was never on the news. The one I got, and I took high quality video of it flying through at about 150 feet. And some people said it was closer to like 300 or something looking at it. It was clearly under the rooftops of regular like 15-story apartment complexes with decks, with people that could go out on their deck and the helicopter blades were going through the buildings. That was so insane. That was the craziest thing I've ever seen, because the loops they were doing, I was like, okay, that's one thing. But at the last point in Seattle, there's a hospital that's like up, I don't know what Central District kind of, I forget what hospital that is, but I was down by the train station, King Station, if you know Seattle, and it was flying through the buildings. That one never got coverage. If you guys watched me, I live streamed that, and then I also got recorded video of it, and it was absolutely insane. Black Hawk helicopters flying between, the only thing between them was a 2-lane road with 2 extra lanes for parking. So a 4-lane road, and they went through those 2 buildings. I was just blown away. Never got coverage. There was like a West Seattle blog post that talked about the Black Hawk helicopters going through. But my point is, there can be a lot of stuff like that, and the local governments choose to tell you or not, and a lot of the times they're not trying to cause panic. But they have been told specifically not to take photos and videography of this stuff being moved around. Dex, as far as this is a huge drill. There's much more than this involved. The biggest NATO drill that's going on over these next couple months, over 90,000 troops, not including who are already stationed there, are going to be doing this thing. But this is actually a bigger kind of subset of that, right?
It certainly is. This is, they've got a lot going on. I think one of the areas is trying to, work in with Finland and with Norway and now Sweden, so that they can leverage the northern sections of the Arctic area and the areas where Russia may come in as well, as they refer to it, the threat. And then we're going to cover in a minute the other area that they're working on right now. So there's actually multiple drills going on this whole time. And this, 20,000 they're talking about here. We'll talk about that same number again, but it's but just I think it's not the number at each location, it's the number in total. And I think really when you think about the 90,000, that's a lot of soldiers, that's a lot of equipment, everything from naval to air to ground. It's all being moved into locations. It's getting prepared into locations for what they expect, and they keep telling us is coming, which is this conflict with Russia.
Yeah, as far as what's going on, comment by Rashid in chat says, I see gag orders everywhere, every day, all the time. Can you expand on that? I know there's a lot of military and current and active and retired here. What do you mean by that? Is that military related? Let's hear. Paul Saul, careful what you wish for, you might just get it. That's a good point. Crimea Bridge is out, no cars running, says Scott Gifirda. Let's see here. Yeah, it's like everything is backwards. The daylight when we were awake seems to be a nightmare, whereas when we sleep, I have great dreams. Things are back-ass weird worlds. Back-ass words. I was saying a screen name there. Where is back-ass weird world? Blah, blah, blah. Haven't seen him in a while. And then Kathy Payaina. Jammer, you made a point. Somebody says, and even I was saying how countries outside of NATO don't exactly like the United States. Jammer, I forgot to say it when you said it, but even countries inside of NATO don't like the U.S. Look at Turkey. Look at France. Look at others that are straight up giving us the cold shoulder. And then the one of the other ones too that recently gave us crap. And then Poland, NATO troops cross Poland's Vistula River in major readiness exercise. So that's another thing. Like we have confirmation of some of this stuff moving around, but locals are saying that they don't hear anything about it. That's kind of crazy. This is pretty cool, actually, how they get these tanks across the water is these, I don't know how these work exactly, but I'm assuming inflatable kind of bridge type things. These are super, super cool. Now, I know they have floating bridges. We saw that in the beginning of Russia going into UKR. They actually brought them in via boats. The boats would bring in kind of these floating platoons or pontoons like this, and they would all six, even on a river that was going. And I believe this is actually on a river, right? Yeah. The boat would be on the side going against the drift and keeping it straight. And it would be multiple boats with multiple pontoons. And then the tanks and everything else would drive over them. Pretty crazy. Imagine how good of an inflatable those have to be because they're not like permanent boats. I think those are set up on site. Am I wrong? Military.
It's a driven vehicle. If you look at the pontoon,
this is a vehicle.
The pontoon itself will flip up on the side and it can be driven. So it's like on land, it'll drive to get to the water, and then it'll go out into the water, flip the pontoons down, and then it can connect to multiple segments of itself. And they can either make a bridge, or in this case, use a bridge that they just drive across like a ferry.
So is this different than what Russia had? Russia had these boats that actually had to push manually in. So this actually can flip up, drive on its own. Looks like
Correct.
There's a guy driving it here. Look, there's a guy in kind of a, looks like he's almost controlling it here, or maybe that's just him strapped onto the side. Wow, I wonder, can you see if there's any pictures of this on land driving? That's really cool. But either way, what's not cool is that they're moving this gear around, and supposedly really nobody knows that this is happening. What flag is that? I wonder what that is. The yellow triangle with black on top and red on the bottom. And is that France? Or is that, who is that? Huh. So NATO is moving around, and they cross the Vistula, and it's called Dragon 24, which Think about that. 20,000 soldiers from 9 NATO countries transporting battle tanks, armored personnel carriers, and other military equipment crossed the Vistula River on Monday in a major NATO maneuver to test its readiness against Russia. The operation, called Dragon 24. Think about the naming that. Took place on Poland's longest river near Kosovo, which is about 100 kilometers south of Gdansk. Of the 20,000 soldiers, 15,000 were from Poland, the Polish Armed Forces said. We are showing what capabilities we have, and we are combining this with the determination to use them, said NATO General Gunnar Brugner. It says overcoming a body of water is a key capability that an enemy needs in order to bring reinforcements to the front, or an army. I'm sorry, not enemy. Brugner said, Dragon 24 is part of a larger NATO operation dubbed Steadfast Defender, which will last around 4 months and stretches from Norway to countries such as Romania. The Defense Alliance has mobilized around 90,000 soldiers in total for it. Now, Romania, also, remind you, like I have all this week, they've dug hundreds of miles of trenches along their border. So all of these countries that we've talked about in the past, they're all working together on this. So pretty crazy to say the least. Let's see here. Sean James, what is going on? Making a repeating playlist in VLC. Gosh, I haven't used VLC in years. In VLC player on my phone with these 4 MP3s has helped me stay centered in faith. VLC, I have not seen that in a while. And then Viv B, Bobby Sue, Briar Patch, Randy Man, nice to see you. Let's do a quick roll call. Juanita's review is here. Nice to see you here. Shastina, W.I.S. Jen, Jeremy Smith. Who needs that many soldiers doing, so something is up. Yeah. Well, it's the largest exercise ever. Let's see here. Over 3 days ago on YouTube, there was March 2nd meteor that hit Russia. Interesting. James Garcia, I think I saw a clip of that. There was a really high quality clip of that on Twitter. It was at nighttime. Beautiful, beautiful clip of it. Maybe that was something else. And then Rubicon Red Heifer used cleansing as impurity as a person who touched a body. Did not know that. Carol, Sissy Jean, Shastina, J Pass from Grass Valley. We've got Barbara Franz from Southwest Ohio, Susan Gitz from Illinois, GJ Nooner from PL. We've got Wilford Williams from Houston. Nice to see you. Central Washington, M. St. G. What's going on? Orange Vanilla Sky from Milford, Connecticut. Northwest Ohio. We've got Northeast Washington States. Terry, Breyer. Nice to see you. Breyer Nordyke. Hunter's Dad from Minnesota. And Jonathan Floming, Aaron G. 4G from Tennessee River, Oregon. Puget Sound, Jenny June Moonwalker. Hey, Jenny, is it snowing outside where you're at? And then Derek Carred and Terry Wilkerson. Thank you, guys. Appreciate everybody that just made it. Hey, and Rip Curl has made it. Southern Oregon. Rip Curl is also, I think you can still click on their screen name and go directly to their channel, but he's who I mentioned earlier on marfooglenews.com/friends. Oregon Prepper. So go check him out. And then before we move on, just a reminder, if you haven't checked out Jace, this was by request. Foogle fam asked us dozens and dozens of times over the last month that as far as what do they do for backup medications. Now, specifically, we ended up really saying we got to find something. And of course, I went through this during CV. I went through once, and then one of my aunts went through another time for a certain thing that nobody could really get. But Jace Medical is a legit telehealth that you get a board certified doctor. You go and do a telehealth appointment, and you can get either a Jace case, which has a whole package of different things that you would need at backup, or you can have your regular prescription that you take, and you, of course, have to go through the appointment, but you can actually get a year's supply of that, and you can always have it run concurrent, so you'll always have a year. So again, that's something that is really, really cool. Make sure to go learn more at their website. Most people will end up going and getting a Jace case, which has some of the most needed and necessary kind of backup meds, as far as antibiotics and things like that. And then there's also really, really cool add-ons albuterol for asthma. If you have asthma and things like that, it's definitely good to have backup inhalers. So again, go learn more over there, marfooglenews.com/Jace. And again, make sure to use the code MARF. With all the stuff going on with the pharmacies, the hacks, if we do have a grid down scenario, how are you going to be set up as far as your medications? That is why companies like Jace exist, for those emergency medicines. So go check them out, marfooglenews.com/Jace, and make sure to use the code MARF. It helps us out and it gets you a discount at the same time as supporting independent. And then let's go over to UKR. Senior Russian official says Russia will not use state-of-the-art Armada tanks in UKR due to their high price. Dex.
Yeah, this is exactly what we have said. We've been saying that they're not putting in their most expensive equipment. Even when it comes to their high-end missiles, they've sort of used it as a playground. Like, let's test some Zircons and see if it works. Let's make sure that we can get some real-world value out of it. But they're not using them left and right. They're not wasting their top equipment, top people, top tanks on UKR. They know they need that, and they're probably planning to use it in defense and or in offense of something bigger with NATO. That's the reason why, and this sort of backs it up. We've been saying it all along because we can sort of look at what's going on and what kind of equipment they're using, and everybody's making fun of them all. They're looking at this old stuff they're sending to the front lines. They just have nothing. Well, no, they don't. They have a lot. They're holding on to it because they know they need it, and they're able to accomplish what they want to accomplish with not having to put in their most expensive tanks and their most expensive equipment and gear. Even their planes, their top end planes, are staying back behind, way behind the border and launching because they can.
Okay, so this is, and again, we've talked about this. I talked about this in the very beginning, that they were throwing in 100-year-old weapons. They were throwing T-60 tanks or T-7, whatever the old 60-year-old tanks. They were not trying to use their best stuff. That tells me, one, they're trying to get by using their conscripts. They conscripted immediately. They grabbed people off the street, and people took that as, oh, they're weak. They don't have a military. No. They didn't even use their own military. They conscripted right off the bat, because that tells me they are saving their best for last. They're saving their best for the real war, for World War III, for versus the U.S., not UKR, which didn't have its own structure. UKR would have been done a year and a half, 2 years ago if it wasn't for NATO infrastructure. They don't have a freaking all sorts of stuff. They didn't have anything. Compared to Russia. Russia had Air Force, next-gen fighters, all missiles, every kind of missile, whereas UKR didn't have any of that. They had the support of NATO. So yeah, that says something right there. Quintrus, now I understand what you mean. Says, Adam, YouTubers diss DC. I'm a regular citizen in DC. I asked in a YouTube chat if DC would be safe. A person in the chat said hoped DC would be destroyed. I get what you're saying. Well, I wouldn't confuse the hatred towards the people running DC with the hatred for the people that live there. First of all, I have family that are about 50 or 60 miles away from DC, and I don't want anything to happen to DC regular people. I don't want anybody to be hurt, right? I think it's a lot of rhetoric that comes out of people too. It's just the sheer amount of pain that people are going through, being lied to so much that they say stuff like that. But if you're from DC, you don't get to choose. A lot of people don't even get to choose where they live. You don't get to choose where you're born. You don't get to choose where your family is. And unfortunately, DC, if you live there, people are going to say all sorts of stuff about it. But I'm pretty sure they're talking about, and no, I don't think DC will be safe. That is the number one target. Seattle won't be safe either. We have Boeing. We have Microsoft. We have all of these giant targets. We have half of the internet, huge companies here. At least we used to. We're not safe either. So I wouldn't tell people that's safe. I'm sure there's people that say, I wish Seattle with Chaz was wiped off the place too. But yeah, I don't think most people have a problem with the regular people. DC's got a lot of history. Unfortunately, most of it being removed. But Quintus, we love you here. And then South Korea, U.S. troops kick off annual drills over North Korea threats. It's like all of this is happening all at the same time. They always do their annual drills. Have things changed? Another part of our conversation that we had earlier on our news video, which again, go check out, is the fact that, for decades, these kind of things have been thrown around, like, war with this or war with that. But what has changed in my mind is that all of these are now at their high tension, all at the same time. Simultaneously, you have all of these countries talking about having this one goal. It's not just like the main news cycle and you have one proxy event going on in the world where, China's going to take Taiwan, or, Israel, Iran wants to take out Israel. You have at least 6 going on at the same time involving 12 countries, and they're all trying to take out the other, right? Or they want to take out the other, or they talk about taking out the other. That's insane. This looks exactly how they predicted World War III would go down. It looks a whole lot like World War II before it was declared, before it was even called that. But this South Korean and U.S. drill, we watch all the drills because these drills can cause huge events. They could also coincide with real events. They're also used to actually move gear. There's been a lot of talk lately, and I just want to remind people, when something goes down, they have put out a lot of information about a potential surprise attack from Korea. They've already told the entire planet that North Korea was launching right next to South Korea and that they've evacuated a few cities. So it's in the back of most people's heads from the last month that they have already basically shot artillery and missiles right next to South Korea. So if something popped off, nobody would be surprised, let alone even if that didn't happen, they wouldn't be. But right now, when these drills happen, that's when you also have to pay attention because it could pop off then. What's scary about that is I don't think North Korea and South Korea are going to pop off without China and Taiwan popping off, and Iran and Israel, and Venezuela and Guyana. I think all of this is getting set up to happen all at the same time. What do you guys think? Let me know in the comments down below. I'd love to hear from you. And thank you for joining us. Billy the Kid, Shastina, thank you. Linda Hope, Jeff Sierro, thank you. Small Town 7076, thank you for subscribing. As always, if you subscribe during the show, I always try to shout you out and recognize you. And then Kenton Owen, thank you for subscribing as well. I appreciate you, and thanks for joining us for our show. And then Dex, China's military drone makers, this is a huge deal. First thing I thought was, holy moly, they actually did it. And there's a reason why. This is not something easy to do. What did China do?
So images aired on Saturday showed that the Anthropter, dubbed Little Falcon, is actually taking flight during a recent test in Xi'an capital in China's northwest Jiangxi province. Look, this is a drone that looks like a bird. It's the most agile and lifelike bird-like drone anywhere in the world, and it's likely to research the field for years to come. So look, they've been studying. Everyone's been studying, how do they, mimic or recreate the lift and the aerodynamics of a bird and flapping wings, etc. Well, they have now built a drone that does that. So imagine this. You're looking in the sky and you're looking at a bird. You think you're looking at a bird, and now you can really say birds aren't real because it might be a drone. That's creepy. And this will be super disguisable if you think about it. If they can make this thing look just like a bird, flap its wings like a bird, and fly like a bird, you may not know it's ever really a drone.
Yeah, and somebody said that is so cool looking. I actually agree with you. This is China doing another first. Mind you, there's a reason why this was not capable to be done. The first thing I thought of is okay, so that means that the motors are getting small enough. The lithium batteries are becoming small and light enough to where they can power the motors. The motors have to be fast enough. It has to be a certain RPM to be able to have the amount of lift and thrust to actually do this. This is a big deal. They've been trying to do this since the Wright brothers, to be able to have a bird-like plane, right? They've done different things that flap around and kind of float, but not efficiently, not like a bird. That is why this is a big deal. As far as being able to spy on a country, the farther this goes in longevity and being able to cross distances, that's where this is scary. From right here, from 20 feet away, where this picture zoomed in, yeah, you can tell that is a you can barely tell it's a drone. From 100 feet away, 200 feet away, 300 feet up in the sky with high-tech cameras, you will not be able to tell that this is a bird. I'm sorry, a drone. You will see a bird, and if they're doing it, that means U.S. is going to have this. So it's kind of crazy, but now when you look up at a flock of birds or even a single bird, it might not be an eagle. It might be a drone watching over your house. That is absolutely terrifying. So it is very cool. The science behind it is fascinating, and I'm super intrigued by this because I did a project in school, even back to like when I was sophomore or junior, where I made like a balsa wood plane, and I tried to do this with rubber bands. I actually was somewhat successful, but to do this on a bigger scale, enough to be able to carry a camera, all that stuff, everything has to line up for that. The computer parts, the motors, the batteries, all of that. This is also freaky because something like this could be flying above your head. It could also be strapped with an explosive. It could also be equipped with AI. That's terrifying. Think about a swarm of these flying. Nobody would pay a single thought to it. You could have a swarm of 1,000 of these, and then all of a sudden they split up and go to their targets. You would never see it coming. Or you could send 10 million of these, and I'm sure they're somewhat inexpensive compared to other things, right? Send 10 million of these, mass produce them, launch them off a drone carrier. They all have a explosive. Boom, 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 boom. Hit a million targets. Have them all go their separate ways so they don't show up on a radar. All they would see is a bird. Visibly, they don't need to be camouflaged, because when say a carrier sees this thing, they're going to say, oh, it's just a bird. Now they have to worry if that bird is actually a weapon. That's freaky if you ask me. But yeah, if you look at this thing carefully, yeah, you can tell it's a drone. You even see kind of the cutoff in here and then the tail. I'm sure they're going to make this more and more lifelike. It looks more like bat wings, like not like Batman, but more like actual bat wings than bird wings. But it kind of looks like a hawk. So that's crazy. And then Red Sea underwater data cables cut as Houthi attacks continue. Now I want to point out, this is actually talking about the event we covered over a week ago. So everybody's talking about this right now. You heard it here a long time ago. Nobody paid attention to it. It's the back page stuff. Now, both companies have come out and said a statement. They're like, oh man, this actually affected a huge chunk of the internet. This is what we're paying attention to right now, because obviously there's rumors of a grid down. There's rumors of cyber attacks. There's rumors of underwater cables being cut. If we get separated from Europe, that's a big deal, especially if we truly are on a precipice of all of these countries snapping at once. We actually go into World War III. Those underwater cables would be cut. Our hardline communications with Europe would be cut. So as far as the Red Sea cables, obviously, people were like, oh, well, this didn't affect me, but this is setting a precedent. Dex, now they're finally talking about it. This cable actually caused havoc with the internet. Not here, but
it certainly did.
It's a big deal.
Yeah, it certainly did. It affected multiple companies. There's multiple cables. 3 of them were cut. When we reported this, it was initially thought that the Houthis had done it. Since then, the Houthis came out and said, no, it wasn't us, because they didn't want to be blamed for it. But here's the interesting thing, that Seacom, which is one of the companies, said they did their initial testing and they found that the affected segment is actually in the Yemeni maritime jurisdiction. So it's in that southern Red Sea, but it's in where the Yemen would be in control of those waters. So there's a lot more, I guess, evidence at this point for them to say it's probably something along the lines of the Houthis that did this. They did lose 25% of internet traffic, but they are able to reroute. Some things are still down, but for the most part, there are multiple lines that run through there, and they back traffic through it. And having multiple lines means they get a lot faster connections and things like that. So by losing a few lines, it doesn't necessarily mean the whole internet is down in that neck of the woods. Maybe anybody that was served only from that line would be down, but the rest just got rerouted. And it probably causes more congestion and slowness in some of those areas when lots of data is moving. So it is a big deal. It's one of those things that they're going to have to pay attention to, but it has been talked about between Iran and the Houthis before, that going after those cables would be a strategic target for them. So that's why a lot of people were looking at them, because it's not new news. It was actually something they had talked about in the past and had brought up before. So it's definitely a target. And now that they've seen 3 and it's sitting right in the area, it's pretty easy for them to point the finger at who they believe did it. Whether they did it or not, they're certainly going to be blamed for it.
And I know many of you have got messages about this. Do not believe their official story on this. Think about the reasons why people are questioning that. So what if it wasn't? Why are they denying this, right? You would think, oh, yeah, we did it. We definitely did it. You'd think they would want to take responsibility for screwing this thing over. Think about if it wasn't. That's a scary thought, because if it wasn't them that did it, then who did, and why was it even done? Just to put it out there, they're cutting underwater sea cables now. Does that mean if something else is cut, they could say, oh, they did it? If all of a sudden the Europe, US, that line gets cut, they'll go, oh, it was these guys, and they have an expanded network, and they're able to do it here, so they're able to do it there. Just a thought. Not a very fun one to think, though. Thank your mods, by the way. Thank again to Ripcroll. Thanks, Ilea. Ilea, I forgot to ask you if it's snowing where I know you had the whole crazy storm with the winds and everything, but are you covered in snow as well? And then if you're from here, how is it looking outside? I'm sure I'm going to go out there. Hopefully I don't go out there to a foot of snow or something. Cha Twisty says 3-letter agency, starting with the C and ending with the I. Sorry. Wilford Williams. Let's see. Rubicon. Call Larry the Cable Guy. Gosh, that movie, I haven't seen that in years. Sean James, Metropolis 2026. It's the sum of all fears. It is freaky. Schaefer Girl, Paul Saul, Jim Carrey, Cable Guy. Yeah. Gosh, in the age of Jim Carrey. Now, where the heck, what, Jim Carrey now? His whole nighttime, his late night television appearance there, talking about the Illuminated. That one was nuts. Speaking of nuts, Tumblemageddon. Before we go into this, thank you, Chanel Bevelicqua. It's so nice to see you. Thank you for stopping by. Thank you for supporting. But Chanel, I'm so super glad you got to make it. Luckily, it wasn't the latest show tonight, but thank you, and thank you for your support. And I hope you stick around for jams too. Tumblemageddon, Tumbleweed Stampede buries homes across the West. This is nuts. So if you have not seen this yet, let me show you. They say what was causing this, as far as what was happening. Some people don't even believe what they were doing, but or what they said it was. Dex, do we have, or there is pictures in this? I was looking for the tweet.
Yeah, I think there's one in this article.
Yeah, so there's actually videos of this, and it shows people. Yeah, I wonder if there's any more photos of this. Let me. I
mean, that's like somebody's house completely covered, buried.
I gotta. There was one that was just so crazy. Hold on. Let me. Yeah, let me show you. This is nuts. There we go. God Heckweck. Okay. Tumbleweeds.
While you're pulling that up, it was so bad they're telling people not to put them out in the street because it's just going to flood the street and they can't even drive cars. So you've got all in your yard or in your house, all over your house. You can't even do anything with it.
Yeah, no, I mean, this is okay, here we go. Here's another shot. Here's another shot, a clip of a video here from Santa surfing. Check that out. The house is up to its roof in tumbleweeds. People were blocked out. I mean, like, this is straight up like out of an apocalypse movie. Only I don't even think anyone's been creative enough to think of an apocalypse movie with this many tumbleweeds. Like, this is something AI or Sora would think about, right? I don't think we've ever seen anything like it in real life like that. I hate the auto thing here. Hold on. Oh yeah. Gosh, look at this. Look at this. Let me put this on here and then go like this. Yeah, so just check out a split second of this here. Look at that. That is absolutely insane. I don't know if you could call that apocalyptic, though. And then electric cars release more toxic emissions than gas-powered. Before we talk about that, make sure to go check out Energy. Make sure to go check out their new Flex Tactical. This is the same generator that has won the contract. This is shipping out with the U.S. Army. Army doesn't care if it's pretty. They don't care if it has, studded diamonds on it. What they care about is if this thing is going to work and work every time. That's why we recommend it. It is one of the toughest generators out there. It is one of the most high quality. All of the parts, components, you know that the company making it is an affront for a country that is possibly trying to take ours out. Again, the competitors that are expandable like this, that can expand, this one can expand up to 96 batteries. It's got built-in heaters into every battery. It's got a steel reinforced frame. It's got a 1,500-pound latch system, so you can connect them, stack them as high as 5 each. And I think that's more limited with the 1,500-pound latch system. I think you could do way more than that, but it would be about being able to actually carry it or move it without a hand truck. And it can be modded. It can be changed. The whole feature of this is that it is modular. It can be expanded. It can be shrunk down to one battery and take it with you, power your tools, power your campsite, power your house. Again, go check it out. You can also add a UPS module. You can add a rapid charger. You can add a supercharger that allows you to plug in 3 times the amount of solar panels. And remember, you don't only just charge this, you can charge this with solar panels and get free, unlimited energy from the sun, but you can also charge it like a battery bank from your wall. Again, and then have that power sitting there ready to go. When the power goes out, switch it right over to this. Not to mention, it is silent. That is the biggest part. If you want to be a gray man, you don't want to be have people hear you from 3 blocks away that you have power. If you want to be low key and stealth, this is the way to go. It's quiet and nobody's going to know you have it. So marfugglenews.com/energy, INERGY. Again, that's marfugglenews.com/INERGY. All right, and then the Flex Tactical, they show actually right there the EMP shield for the Flex Tactical. It's one of the only ones. What's funny is this is most likely the one I actually have. I can only tell this because of they are actually printed on now. They're not, those stickers were for the initial product kind of videos. And this was for the video, but now it's all printed on there. I got sent one of the first ones. Now they just keep getting better and better as far as the mods that they're putting out. So go check it out. marfugglenews.com/energy, INERGY. Electric cars release more toxic emissions than gas-powered vehicles and are worse for the environment, finds shock report. Now, Dex, do you want to explain what they mean by this? Essentially, even the braking recharge, apparently that's bad, right?
So what? Yeah, this is it's an interesting study. It's the timing of this is kind of interesting as well because we're seeing a lot of the U.S. car makers back out of the EV space, and all of a sudden China is prepared to take it over. But what is happening, or at least in this report, what they're trying to say is, look, these electric cars are so much heavier because of all the batteries, and that can result in emissions that are nearly 400 times more than traditional tailpipe emissions. But the emissions they're talking about is pollution that is created from the additional tire burn and the additional braking burns that are needed for these heavier vehicles. And that puts particulates into the air and into the ground and into the water. So that's what they're more concerned about. It's not the same. It's not apples to apples. It's sort of, mangoes to cherries, so to speak, or something else, right? It's two different fruits, but they're both problems, at least in this case, as they're trying to say it, and they're trying to make it out like it is worse. I'm not saying it's right or wrong. It's just what they're saying. It's their study. This is what's being talked about. It's interesting, though, that the timing of this kind of study is being brought to the attention, given, like I said earlier, what's happening in the EV market, and especially everyone's love-hate relationship with Elon.
One thing I wanted to point out, there's obviously a lot of Teslas in the parking lot, probably a lot of the employees. Whose car do you think this is? Can anybody spot what car this is? It's got two huge hood vents. It looks like a super sports car with a V12 or V8 in the back. What kind of car is that? I can't put my finger on it, but I'm guessing it's over $150,000 car parked out. And it's in such a weird spot. You would think that, is that Elon's personal car or something? Or just thought that was interesting. Everybody else is parked somewhere else. This is parked right by the door. And looks like a very
They probably take it
one.
to events. It's probably out of that trailer, and they probably take it to events to drag race it against a Tesla.
Well,
It's probably like a McLaren or a Lambo. I can't tell from here.
or it's some unreleased. I think they're smarter than that. Some unreleased Tesla or something. Watch in the back, it's just like a battery or something. What the heck happened to this car? Is that like a VW bug? They just don't like VW, so they just crushed it. That is the weirdest looking glitch there. Lots of Teslas, almost like they're painted in. And why do cars look like this? Do they do that for privacy? Like, is that because of how they composite it?
Yeah, it's composite. I mean, look at that. Back to the squished car. If you look to the right, there's a car with two different colors because they composited images where two different colored cars were in the same spot.
Oh, weird. You're right. White on one side and red on the other. Oh, because it's different days, right?
Yep.
Weird. That is weird.
But that's the Tesla factory in California.
Yeah, and these might be like off the line, but I would assume some of these could be employees. I know like a lot of companies, they'll give them company cars or whatever, or they'll encourage them to drive their own car or give them discounts or something. Do you drive a Tesla? I've actually been in one once, and it was my cousin's. He put bumper stickers on his, and he had the S-Class, not the 3. He had the original S-Class that was, when it came out, it was like a super sports car. He's the only person I know that covered it in hiking bumper stickers and truck stop stickers. Everybody was like, what? Who does that? My cousin. All right, and then...
my buddy who has a car dealership, or not car dealer, like a used car lot, he drives one of those Teslas, and he gave me a spin in it. It was kind of fun. But he had the one with the dual motors, like the super fast one.
I think that's what he had too.
Yeah.
Well,
They
no,
go
I don't
really-
know.
The
was
really
out then.
the one that's like 0 to 60 and the fastest, whatever that is.
That's
that
the
was
Plaid,
that model.
right?
It was, yeah,
With
it
the
was pretty
S.
cool.
Either
It was
way,
fast.
I've been in the X2, but I didn't get a drive in it. With the gold doors, and I was thinking, man, it would be super nice with kids to have those doors. That thing was super, super nice inside. Yeah, I think a lot of us look at in the interior like that was just so comfy. But yeah. And then let's see here. Chanel Beveliqua, again, thank you for your support. I appreciate that. Over on D-Live, thank you so much. To Kimbria, Karen from Columbus, Beer Juice, Fractured Fusion, Shugs, CJ7, Skyhouse, The End is Near. Again, Karen from Columbus, thank you so much. J-Girl, that's me. We've got, again, Vault, thank you so much. I appreciate that. Black Cat 5. And then Beer Juice, thank you for gifting out badges to folks over on D-Live. Old Combat Vet, thank you, and thank you. Cannot say thank you enough to everybody that supports. Troll Slayer, The Great Tumbleweed Lockdown. That's funny. Yeah, there's a video over there on Twitter. It's the kids riding their bikes through it and they're getting hit. I would almost think that would be fun as a kid rolling through those. I think that they're rough. Like, aren't they like prickly or something? Stephen McMahon says CIA had drones as small as and looking like hummingbirds since the early 90s. Yes, but they were not efficient. Also, they could not go big distances. I actually know exactly what you're talking about, but they could only do little stuff. So I do know what you mean. But the crazy part is being able to have it as efficient as a bird to be able to go over long distances. That's what they're developing now. And something that can go in high altitudes. So not small and little, because the smaller it is, the easier it is to do. You're talking about it can go as big as they want it. They can scale it up as large as they want it and put it in high altitude. That's what's crazy about that. And then Grace for you too. Sean James, thank you. Quintris, Old Combat Vet. Really nuts. Dex, thank you. Appreciate you.
Much love. Great job, brother.
It's time for shoutro, not an outro. It's not a shout out. It's a shoutro. Join us on Jams.
Only if I could be a fly on the wall in the White House telling you who's running it all, who's making this Roman